Okay, so are you ready to dive into this one? Lolita. It's a book that's followed me around, like this weird, almost mythical thing.
Oh, absolutely. Even the title, it's almost dangerous to say it, right? Like it carries this whole weight of, I don't know.
Baggage.
Yeah, baggage. You say Lolita, and everyone has an opinion, even if they haven't actually read it.
Exactly. So we're going to try to unpack all that. Look at the book, the impact, the way it's woven together. Because love it or hate it, you got to admit, it's a seriously well-crafted novel.
Oh, without a doubt. Nabokov, he was playing old other game, linguistically speaking.
So for anyone out there who maybe managed to avoid all the hype, what's the story even about?
Right. So on the surface, on the stress surface, you've got Humbert. And he's obsessed with, well, a young girl.
And this is where it gets really uncomfortable really fast.
Yeah. He calls her Lolita. But even that name, it's his, isn't it? This invention, this way of controlling her image. And she's not just any young girl to him. She's a nymphette.
And that word nymphette, it's everywhere now. But Nabokov, he brought that into the world through this book.
Exactly. Before Lolita, that wasn't really a term people were using. He kind of created this category. And in doing so, forced us to look at something really disturbing about how we view young girls.
So Humbert, he weasels his way into this young girl's life, becomes her stepfather.
Through some seriously questionable means, yeah.
To put it lightly. And then there's this road trip across America, and he's convinced it's a love story, that he's somehow in control.
And this is where the whole narrative structure comes into play, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing everything through his eyes, this fictional memoir he's writing from prison.
A confession, almost. But can we believe him? That's the big question.
Right. Is he manipulating us from page one?
Mm.
And that's what we need to figure out.
Because to understand Lolita, we've got to understand Humbert. We have to get inside the head of this unreliable narrator. It's like he knows he's in the spotlight, like he's on trial, and he's got this captive audience.
Exactly. And he's using every trick in the book to win us over, or at least make us doubt ourselves.
And he's clever, I'll give him that. The way he dances around his desires, never quite saying things directly.
Right. Like he'll talk about, oh, I don't know, the subtle and fragrant memories or some such thing.
Instead of just coming out and,
saying what he means, being honest, even with himself, about his actions.
But that's all part of it, isn't it? This whole facade he's built up.
Mm-hmm.
And the language is a huge part of that.
Absolutely. And the nymphette thing, that's the most obvious example. It's like he's trying to
redefine reality, make it more palatable.
Exactly. He takes these young girls, these children, and tries to put them in this other category, this, I don't know, this mythical realm where morality doesn't apply.
So he can justify his actions to himself and to us.
Exactly. It's a classic manipulation, but he's so damn good at it. It's like he's playing this literary chess game with the reader.
And we're constantly trying to stay one step ahead, trying to figure out what's real and what's Humbert's BS.
Right. And just when you think you're getting close, there are the footnotes. These little asides, these digressions.
That make you question everything all over again.
Exactly. It's like the Nabokov is saying, hey, don't get too comfortable. Don't think you've got them figured out.
And then on top of all that, you've got the forward and afterward.
Oh, man, don't even get me started. Those are like...
another layer of the onion, another mirror in the funhouse.
Yeah, something like that. We're never quite sure who's speaking, who's manipulating whom. And that's the brilliance of it, right? It makes the whole act of reading, of trying to find truth in a story, this incredibly slippery, uncertain thing.
Yeah, which in a way reflects the whole theme of the book, doesn't it? This idea of perception versus reality, of how easily we can be tricked by language, by our own desires. Yeah, it's like he's built this maze and he keeps changing the walls on us. But, and this is where I struggle with Lolita, there's this other side to it.
The beauty of the language, right?
Exactly. It's like even when he's describing the most messed up stuff, Nabokov, he can turn a phrase like nobody's business.
It's true. There are these moments, these little glimmers where the prose just, it transcends the subject matter. You almost forget what you're reading.
And then you remember.
Right.
Like that part where he's talking about Lolita playing tennis. I mean, wow.
Yeah. It's like he's trying to capture something, I don't know, essential about her before Humbert gets his hooks in too deep.
And it makes it that much more disturbing because this is all going to go bad, but there's beauty there, even if it's twisted.
It's that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
The beauty and the horror all tangled up together. And it makes you question everything. Like, are we complicit if we find beauty in this story?
Which brings us back to Nabokov himself, doesn't it? I mean, this guy was brilliant, a linguist, obsessed with words, and he chose to write this in English, a language he was still mastering.
It's incredible. It adds this whole other dimension to the book Like Humbert's obsession with language, his wordplay, it mirrors Nabokov's own struggles, this wrestling match with meaning.
And the fact that he laid down the law about when it could be published, that it couldn't come out until Dolores, the real Lolita, was gone. What do you make of that?
I mean, talk about adding a layer of complexity, right? It's like he wanted to give her back some power, some autonomy that Humbert had stolen from her.
Even if it was just symbolic.
Right, like, you can have my story, but only after she's free from it. It's heavy stuff.
It really makes you think, huh?
Right.
And that's kind of the point of all this, isn't it? To really grapple with Lolita, to let it get under your skin.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not a book that gives you easy answers. It's a book that forces you to ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
About ourselves, about art, about how we tell stories, and who gets to control the narrative.
And those are conversations worth having, even if they make us uncomfortable. So yeah, go read it or reread it, and let's keep talking, because this is a book that, well, it stays with you.